Right, let's get more on this right now and speak to Johnny Nelson. He's already smiling at those quotes. Of course, former world cruiserweight champion and Sky Sports' very own. Johnny, I spoke to you just a few days ago, didn't I, when we'd heard about this, but it wasn't official. It's now official. How huge is it that Jake Paul can land a fight with a very recent heavyweight world champion?
Well, by the sounds of it, there's 50 million reasons why Anthony Joshua's taking this fight. In my head, I never, ever thought this fight would happen. Why? Because of Anthony Joshua's desire to be in the history books, to be a three-time heavyweight champion of the world. To me, it shows me his desire. Pick up 50 million along the way. Nobody can knock him for this. This is now business. This is business. For Jake Paul, absolutely crazy. Jake Paul is a domestic level professional fighter here in the UK. Would he win a British title? No, I don't think so. So now they're putting this domestic level fight in with a former heavyweight two-time champion of the world. The weight is 245. So I think last time Anthony Joshua weighed around that was when he boxed Usyk. That means he's got to be fight fit on point, because his last fight was 18 stone. I think it was 254 against Danny Dubois. So now he basically saying you've got to get yourself in position, get yourself fit, and get yourself ready for fight. It's not tiddlywinks. This is a fight. It's not a push and a pull. You know, so as long as it's not a push and a pull, and don't put me down and don't touch me in the build up to this fight. You know, remember when McGregor and Mayweather, they had this little side deal, don't touch me in the build up to this. If this is a real legitimate fight, Jake Paul is absolutely crazy. If not crazy, he's super brave. And it'll be interesting to see.
Well, what do you think? Yeah, because you said that before when we spoke about it being a proper fight or not. And Eddie Hearn and Paul's promoter, Nakisa Badarin, have both said in the last couple of days it will be a proper fight. And now you've heard the details. 8 rounds, 3 minutes around, 10-ounce gloves. Do you believe it when they say that it's going to be a proper fight?
I do believe it because AJ's involved, and I think AJ'd struggle to. He's going to take enough flack over this, but again, it's money talk. So I think AJ will struggle because it is an Owen situation. If he goes in there, Jake Paul lasts the distance. What's he tell you about AJ? Apart from he's just earned an extra 15 million quid. If he goes there and struggles with Jake Paul, then what's he say about AJ? No, your heydays are well and truly over. If he goes in there and knocks him out, then I'll say that's to be expected. So the glory, there's probably not much glory in it, apart from the haters of Jake Paul to say, right, I've got rid of this kid. I think it's very brave of Jake Paul. So now the problem child has got us to believe this fight's actually happening. So now you've got our attention. So now you've got to back up the boast. It's not about you're not playing tiddlywink. This is the only game you can't play. You can play football, golf, tennis. You can't play boxing because you get knocked out and you get really hurt.
So you think this could be dangerous for Jake Paul?
Oh my goodness, without a doubt. Now the governing bodies now have got to look at this. Would they sanction this fight in any other dimension? No, they wouldn't. But unfortunately, boxing is now more business than show. And this is business. And so the sanctioning bodies aren't going to say, no, this kid doesn't deserve to be there. You look at this fight here. This guy got the merit because he was the top of his field in his sport. Jake Paul is not the top of any field in any combat sport, not in our sport. But now he's made that transition. Why? Because he gets the numbers, he gets the big broadcast, and he gets the attention of the public and the world for this. Now, most people will watch this to hopefully see Jake Paul get his mouth shut. And they hope Anthony Joshua, this version, what we're watching of Anthony Joshua, turns up. If that version of Anthony Joshua turns up, then it's going to be a comfortable, smug night for any boxing snobbery that's going on. If any other version of Anthony Joshua turns up and he struggles with Jake Paul, then Anthony Joshua needs to think to himself, wow, you know what, I've turned into a businessman. Because that's what it is. He's a bounty hunter. That's what it is. It's a prize fighter.
What does this mean for AJ's future then in terms of future fights? Do you think this signals that he might not fight again at World Championship level, or do you think he can still go on to World Championship fight after fighting Jake Paul?
Well, let's be real. I think Anthony Joshua's days of becoming a world champion have gotten slimmer and slimmer, and the chances have gotten smaller and smaller. And now I don't know if he's still ranked in the top 10, but he's still the biggest draw out there. Like it or not, he's the biggest draw out there. So getting a legitimate opportunity to box for a world title, are probably getting further and further away. The biggest fighter there for him is probably against, apart from Jake Paul, Tyson Fury. That's it. To fight for the world title, it's quite clear the champion is not going to be that champion. So he's making more money, making more headlines than any world champion out there, and he's not even boxing the world title. So this is business. It's good business. But, I think for both Jake Paul and Anthony Joshua, they've taken advantage of a situation that is the state of boxing as it is today.
Yeah, as you say, it's business. A lot of people, boxing fans, will criticise Anthony Joshua for doing this, for taking this fight, which you say is for business, for money, as opposed to a more serious contender. Can you see why people would make that point?
Without a doubt, Anthony Joshua got knocked out against Andy Dubois. You'd think straight away, well, let me get back in that fight. I'm better than this boy. But he hasn't said that. So maybe he's thinking, you know what, I've probably seen my best days. I'll never be able to say that out open and publicly. I've probably seen my best days. So I've got to do the best I can with what I've got left. Because in reality, most people say, get me back in with Daniel Dubois. Let's have this fight. Let's have it. But he's thinking, all right, this kid's better than what I thought. I'm not at that level anymore. It's a hard thing to accept if you used to be a heavyweight champion. You thought that you were the best in the world. So now getting in there with Jake Paul, yes, he knows he's going to get flagged. Yes, he knows he's probably upset one or two traditional fans to say, why are you doing this? But in reality, he's getting in there with someone that's stupid enough that can generate £50 million plus for him to knock him out. Then he moves on. So, and anybody that is honest with themselves, they're not going to turn it down. Nobody on this earth will turn it down. So we can all point the finger and say, why have you done that? But nobody on this God's green earth will turn that opportunity down. It's just that Anthony Joshua, you think, if you're going to do the job, get the job done. Get him out of here and get on with your business.
Johnny, is there any way you think that Jake Paul could cause a massive upset here? I know a lot of people will think about his fight with Tommy Fury, but his last fight was actually against Julio Cesar Chavez Jr., who was a former world champion, and he beat him. Is there any way he might be better than a lot of people think when he turns up to fight AJ?
Listen, he is a decent domestic level fighter. He's no longer a YouTuber boxing. He's a decent domestic level fighter. Now he has an opportunity to go in there with a slightly faded world champion. Because AJ's not a world champion anymore. I'm not saying he's shot, I'm not saying he's faded. He's just below that level now. So now this young man has got an opportunity to get in there with him. Now, the only way this is going to happen where he gets turned over is if Anthony Joshua does what he's done before and leaves his tools at home like he did with Daniel Dubois, like he did with Andy Ruiz. Well, like that's the only way. Can I see Anthony Joshua doing that? No, because there's far too much pressure on him. So this is far too much pressure. And he has to come in at a supreme weight. The weight he came in against Alexander Usyk, that means he's trained. He's got the weight down. So therefore, he's not going to come in and think, this is the pushover. He's going to have a nice, cool swagger about him thinking, I'm going to get this job done. But in his head, he's got to say, I've got to be serious and on point here, because if you give a man a chance that hasn't got one, then you've got a problem.
And the other thing I wanted to touch on here was how Jake Paul will have prepared for this fight, because he was preparing to fight Gervonta Davis, who's 5'5". He's about half the weight of Anthony Joshua. How do you go from preparing to fight that guy to fighting a massive heavyweight like AJ?
Well, it's a little tweak. I'm not saying Davis is a little tweak, but what I'm saying is, you're going to be gym fit, so you're in there. So all you do is change your sparring partners. You change your direction. There's enough time to get that done. December the 19th is what they're looking at. Now you're gym fit. Now you have to just change your game plan to figure out how you're going to do it. Decide with your opponents on what they do and what they bring into it. I just want to make sure I'm not wrong where there are no clauses in this fight that we're not to know about. We saw Jake Paul against Mike Tyson. We saw him against Anderson Silva. We've seen him in fights like that, and you thought, a bit sus here. I just think I could be surprised, because I'm surprised now. I just think Anthony Joshua will struggle to play that game, because this affects him. And Anthony Joshua is bigger than a Jake Paul in our world. So there'll be more of a judgment on Anthony Joshua than there will be on Jake Paul, because Anthony Joshua is expected to get this boy blasted out of there.
Final question. Johnny, you know what's coming. If this is a proper fight, if Anthony Joshua is taking this seriously, what do you think happens?
I'd expect exactly the same thing that happened against Ngannou. I'd expect Jake Paul to get knocked out, if not saved by the referee. I think Jake Paul's a very brave, ambitious young man who's got a great business head on his shoulder. I think everything he's done in our game, he's got our attention. Now he's really got our attention. So I commend him. I respect him for doing that because he's understood the business of our game when it's usually the fighters that end up on the sour end of the stick. So for Jake Paul, well done. The job he's done. For Anthony Joshua, get the job done and show the difference in class, real class, and domestic class.
Major breaking news. Anthony Joshua will fight Jake Paul on December the 19th in Miami. Yes, it's really happening. Jake Paul will face the two-time unified heavyweight world champion Anthony Joshua on Friday, December the 19th in Miami, Florida. It's going to be an 8-round fight with 3-minute rounds and 10-ounce gloves. It's Joshua's first fight since being knocked out by Daniel Dubois in September last year. Jake Paul won a unanimous decision against veteran Julio Cesar Chavez Jr. earlier this year. Well, Jake Paul said this: a professional heavyweight fight against an elite world champion in his prime. When I beat Anthony Joshua, every doubt disappears and no one can deny me the opportunity to fight for a world title. To all my haters, this is what you wanted. To the people of the United Kingdom, I am sorry. Well, Joshua has said this: Jake or anyone can get this work. No mercy. I took some time out and I'm coming back with a mega show. It's a big opportunity for me, whether you like it or not. I'm here to do massive numbers, have big fights and break every record whilst keeping cool, calm and collected. Mark my words, you'll see a lot more fighters take these opportunities in the future. I'm about to break the internet over Jake Paul's face. There will be a kick-off news conference this Friday in Miami. Yep, we can't wait. And we will bring you the best bits of that on Sky Sports News. You can find out on our app those details. And for instant reaction, I'm delighted to say that I'm joined by Nikisa Bidarian, the Chief Executive of the Most Valuable Promotions, who represent Jake Paul. Wow. Well, we sort of knew it was coming, didn't we? But a professional heavyweight fight against an elite world champion in his prime. When I beat Joshua, everything disappears. I mean, it's all built up so beautifully, isn't it?
It's an incredible day. Jake thought of this in March of this year and said, I want to fight Anthony Joshua. People laughed then. I was here at Sky Sports in July. The question was asked, do you see this happening? And our plan was to do this in March, April of 26. Plans changed, and Jake stood up and said, I want to face Joshua now. So it's Jake versus Joshua, Judgment Day, Friday, December 19th from Miami, live on Netflix globally.
Can I ask you about that? Jake, did he demand to go first?
I think it was just fitting, right? Jake just had the biggest event in history last year in terms of streaming viewership, 125 million viewers. Joshua's been out for over a year and a half. So our platform, which is Netflix, our company, Most Valuable Promotions, Jake versus Joshua.
Joshua has, of course, 28 wins, 25 of them have been knockouts. How dangerous is this for Paul?
This is a more dangerous fight than Gervonta Tank Davis, but it's a more winnable fight than Gervonta Tank Davis. Gervonta was small, fast, super skilled. Joshua is big, heavy puncher, but not as evasive. So I think if Jake has the right game plan, he has a pretty good shot of winning this fight.
Paul's got the one loss on his record to Tommy Fury. Joshua, though, you know, we talked about just before, he's a whole different ball game, isn't he? Does he really believe he can shock the world? I mean, from the statement, he's already apologising to the people of the United Kingdom, isn't he?
I think, look, you have to look at the experience that Jake has gained in the 5 years he's been in the sport. To be in your 12th or 13th fight in front of 80,000 people at AT&T Stadium in front of 125 million viewers, that's not experience you can gain normally. So he's going to go into that event very calm and very composed. And I fully believe that he does 100% think he's going to beat Anthony Joshua, yes.
What about the weight? Will there be a limit for Joshua?
So there's a lot of discussion around the weight. Joshua fought Usyk twice. Both of those times, Usyk was 221 pounds. Joshua was 240 to 245. When Jake fought Mike Tyson last year, 227 pounds. I expect Jake will come in anywhere between 225 and 230, and Anthony Joshua has a weight limit of 245 pounds.
There will be those, as you're aware, that will look at it and criticise this fight. There already have been, haven't there? They'll say it's a real mismatch. What would you say to them? Are we going to be watching sport at its purest?
I would say it's much less of a mismatch than what you saw with AJ and Francis Ngannou, who a massive man, but relatively no boxing experience. I would say it's much less of a mismatch than AJ's 9th or 10th fight against guys who've been knocked out 20 to 25 times. Given AJ's pedigree, Jake is built for this. Jake is built for the big moments. So do I think it's dangerous for Jake Paul? Absolutely. Do I think it's also dangerous for Anthony Joshua? 100%.
I mean, we're just watching some of these punches being thrown now. Can he take something like that, Jake Paul?
Alexander Usyk took it, right? I think that was a perfect 1-2 combination by Joshua, again, on a fairly stationary fighter in Francis Ngannou, who had a good performance against Tyson Fury. But I don't think Tyson Fury took that fight serious for 1 second until he was knocked down.
You're standing here today, you know, you talked about coming in here and muting this back in July. We never get to be in that room. What were the negotiations like? How do you pull something like this together?
One, having incredible partners like Netflix, like DAZN. Two, a willing fighter like Jake Paul and Anthony Joshua. The two of them spoke about this back in March and said, we want to do this. So when the opportunity arose, they were the ones that drove the conversation to say, yes, we want to do this for boxing. Our biggest priority wasn't Jake Paul getting a fight. Our biggest priority was the other fighters on the card who'd been training hard for this massive moment. And that's what we put together. And then Matchroom and Eddie Hearn were great partners throughout the process. And
talk to us about Jake Paul's preparations. I mean, it's a quick turnaround, isn't it? What does that look like for him? What sort of team is he assembling? Who's he gonna spar against? Who's going to be in his corner? Those sort of things you must all have ready and raring to go.
When you look at he was fighting Mike Tyson, he was going to fight at heavyweight. That fight got postponed. He went down to cruiserweight. Here, he was looking to lose weight to 195 pounds to fight Gervonta Davis.
Yeah.
Now on 6 weeks' notice, 4 weeks this Friday, he's going to have to get up to heavyweight. But it's something that he's used to doing. And when you look at the cruiserweight to heavyweight division, Usyk being the perfect example, common for cruiserweights to step up into heavyweight.
But in terms of people to spar with, who's going to be in his corner?
Same team that's been in his corner the entire time, right? Jake lives out of Puerto Rico, has a purpose-built facility there that he trains in 5 days of the week. So that team is just assembling different sparring partners than they were for Gervonta Tank Davis.
We know that undoubtedly these two are the headline, but what else can we expect that night on the 19th?
Sure. Most of the fights that we'd announced for the Tank fight will stay on this card, the biggest being the co-main event, which is Alicia Baumgartner, who fought on Sky in 2022 as the co-main versus Michaela Mayer. She's fighting Leila Boudouin. That is a 12 times 3 fight. So these two women are doing men's rules, men's rounds, men's minutes.
And as you stand here now, 6 weeks out, do you honestly believe he can do it? Because if he does, this shakes up the whole sport of boxing, doesn't it?
There's a lot of plans for 2026 for Anthony Joshua. Jake's role is to play the foil in those plans, and his delusional confidence gives him a best shot of doing it.
Is that a yes, then?
Absolutely.
Just checking. Brilliant. Thank you very much for your time. Thank you.
Thank you, yeah. Appreciate it.
And Anthony Joshua and Jake Paul are in talks over a deal for a heavyweight fight in Miami next month. The news comes as Joshua trained with the team of undisputed heavyweight world champion Alexander Usyk. Joshua is still undecided as to whether the training regime will become a permanent arrangement. AJ hasn't fought so far in 2025, but now looks set to face Paul in December. Promoter Eddie Hearn was asked about the potential of an AJ Paul fight yesterday, and here's what he had to say.
Would it be Jake Paul for AJ?
You know, we've talked. I mean, if we're going to have a run out, I'd much rather have a run out with Jake Paul and just end that train. Do you know what I mean? But, you know, I'm not sure Jake Paul's that crazy. If he is, you never know.
So maybe this week?
This week, we're going to decide whether we fight this year.
Oh, you'll have to tell me then, won't you, this week?
Now everyone's going to ask me every day. Sunday, we'll make a decision.
Yes, big boxing news tonight.
that Anthony Joshua is in talks with Jake Paul ahead of a potential fight in December. That's right, in December. Now, we've been speaking to Eddie Hearn this week, and he revealed to us on Sky Sports News that he expects confirmation on Anthony Joshua's next fight in the coming days. And now it looks very much like it's going to be Jake Paul, the controversial figure. Whatever you think about him, he makes a lot of money, huge views, sells fights, but he was supposed to fight Gervonta Davis. That is not happening, and now he's potentially facing one of the biggest names in heavyweight boxing. Whenever you mention the name Anthony Joshua, people are interested, and of course the fight people still want to see is Anthony Joshua against Tyson Fury, and that's the dream fight which Eddie Hearn, Frank Warren and Turki Al-Sheikh are trying to make next year. But Eddie Hearn has said we need Anthony Joshua back in that ring. He's not been in the ring since losing to Daniel Dubois in devastating fashion at Wembley Stadium last year. But if he'd have said that time ago that his next fight would be Jake Paul, not a single person on this planet would believe me. But it does look like now that Anthony Joshua, the former world champion, is about to face Jake Paul in a month's time.
Mate, it's a great thing, so we can just shut that Jake Paul nonsense away. AJ's going to knock him out.
Jake, would it be similar, do you think, to the way AJ knocked out Francis Ngannou? Because Eddie Hearn's just said about the rage maybe AJ has.
It'll be worse. It'll be worse. It'll be worse.
1 round?
1 round. But if he goes past 3 rounds, we don't know what's going to happen.
Really?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. If AJ goes in there trying to mess around, trying to show his boxing skills, nah. He's going to go in there and light him out. That's what we want.
Yeah. I mean, is it something you'd love to see as well? I know, I mean, you've known AJ for a while.
We're all going to be tuning in to watch it. That is it. There's nothing else. December, before Christmas, we're going to watch it.
Usyk became the leading heavyweight of this generation with 2 victories over both Joshua and Tyson Fury, winning all 4 major world championships from the British pair. The current undisputed champion is also weighing up his next opponent, but he's hinted that he could return to the ring in 2026.
Now, some big breaking news from the world of boxing now, and Britain has a new world champion. Fabio Wardley is the new WBO heavyweight champion of the world, and this comes after Alexander Usyk relinquished the belt. We can bring you more on that story now. Alexander Usyk was due to fight the winner of Joseph Parker, against Fabio Wardley, but he told the WBO that he would now vacate the belt. So Wardley emerged as the next challenger for Alexander Usyk after he earned the WBO interim title with a brilliant win over Joseph Parker at the O2 last month. So Usyk was told by the WBO that he had to fight the winner of that fight. The winner of that fight was the Brit Fabio Wardley, but Usyk has decided to relinquish his belt and vacate that belt, which means Fabio Wardley is now the new WBO heavyweight champion of the world. Plenty more reaction to come throughout the evening on Sky Sports News on the same day that Anthony Joshua, a former heavyweight world champion of the world, has decided to take on Jake Paul in a big fight on the 19th of December.
History was made last night as the Eubanks and the Benns clashed again. It was Chris Eubank Jr. and conorbenn, the rematch, just 7 months after their first fight. And Ben did get his revenge with a wider points decision. Michael Bridge was at the Tottenham Hotspur Stadium for us. Michael, it didn't quite live up to the first fight, did it? Why not?
I think the first fight was a real battle between both. You know, Chris Eubank won in terms of the boxing ability. Conorbenn sort of went in there. He probably made a number of mistakes, wasn't disciplined, lost a lot of his discipline in the end, and he said that, and he's been saying that week after week. And discipline was the key word. I mean, I've had lucky enough to have seen Conorbenn in a few training sessions over the last few weeks, and that was the key word coming from trainer Tony Sims constantly was maintain your discipline. And whatever Conorbenn did, you know, he absolutely delivered from the start, really. I had him winning 11 out of the 12 rounds. Maybe the third round probably equal, but apart from that, and he could have got the knockdown he could have got the result in the 12th round. But in the end, it was a dominating performance. He dominated on the front foot, and no mistakes from Ben at all. And he'll move on now. And it was a fantastic night for him. A really tough night for so many reasons for Chris Eubank Jr. And decades of this rivalry, this Ben Eubank name, and now for the first time we see victory for the Ben family.
What about Chris Eubank Jr. came to the ring, accompanied by 50 Cent. Didn't seem to inspire him, though. He just looked really flat, Michael.
He should have come out to Tina Turner again, shouldn't he? Simply the best. You can't mess with the classics, can you? I'm not being funny, but
It's broke, yeah?
Yeah, no, exactly. But no, I mean that was probably the best highlight of Chris Eubank Jr.'s night. But looking back on it from fight week, he's a very intelligent man, Chris Eubank Jr. And, announcing that he's going to have twins, and he didn't want to talk about that publicly, but we talked about it off camera. He seems calm, and I really hope the people around him now advise him. He said he's been to hell and back. Now, we don't know what he actually means. Is it a private matter? Is it to do with the weight cutting? How tough that is. If it is that, you want people to say, you've been to hell and back, don't go back to hell again, because it took so much out of him. When is that much money? When is it too much money, And
with that in mind, and at 1-1, do you think that we might not get the decider, if you like, because of that?
I think if Ben won on points last night and it was close, we would definitely get a trilogy. I don't think anyone would want to see a third fight now. I really don't. It was a comprehensive performance from conorbenn. He wants to move on now to get world titles. The interesting thing for me now is he wants to move down, but he should really go for... I'm looking at him last night. I think he looked good at 160. We all talk about Chris Eubank Jr.'s issues with his weight. Yeah. We have to remember conorbenn was moving up as well to 160, but he looked good at 160. And I know he wants to move back down to 147, but I feel like he'd lose a lot of his power. He looked a good 160 in there. Maybe if you move down slightly, maybe to 154 at super welterweight, that might suit him a little bit more. But he will know. He's got a good team around him, a really, really good team around him. But in terms of a third fight, I think it's very unlikely. Look, I think Chris Eubank Jr. needs a year off, but that would make him 38 years of age. So for me, I can't see it. But for Ben, he's very, very ambitious, and he's got aspirations of the world title now. And I think we can hear from Ben on those world title aspirations.
I think for me, winning the WBC world title is heavy on my heart, heavy on my mind. Getting that WBC world title was the belt my dad won. It was the belt I would love to win. It's my dream. So for me to be one up on my dad with the Eubank-Ben rivalry and also win the WBC world title, it'll be some moment for me.
And how do you see that going?
Yeah, I mean, it's going to be hard, of course, making 147. I've not made 147. I've made 152 a couple of years ago. I've not had to make championship weight 147 for a while. So, yeah, it's going to be challenging, but ultimately it's what we do, But I won't be posting videos of me in a sauna blanket.
Obviously, it's tied now. Is there any appetite?
Done.
Is there any appetite whatsoever?
I don't know how long I can make 147 for. So for me, I mean, listen, money always talks, doesn't it? But for me, for my personal reasons, how much money do you need? So for me, it's let me get that world title, and for me, that would be a box ticked.
OK, so as far as Ben is concerned, he wants to crack on, really use the momentum that he's built now. But what about Chris Eubank Jr.? I mean, he's 36 years of age. You mentioned that, he's going to have twins and and two young children now. So, I mean, is that him done? Do you sense that he is now moving towards that real twilight of his career?
Yeah, I mean, from the first round, you got the feeling straight away, wow, Ben looks good and something's not right with Chris Eubank Jr. And Chris Eubank Jr. said in round one he felt something not right. It takes a lot out of him. We've seen all this weight cutting. So you just wonder, would you want to go into it for a third time? There's no one out there right now who has any appetite looking for a third fight. It reminded me a little bit of when Chris Eubank Jr. fought James DeGale a few years ago, where James DeGale looked to be on the way out. But these two men have produced two great nights, sold out a stadium. How much? Talk about the money. They've earned enough. They're financially settled. So, and remember, he's had to deal with so much as well, with the fallout of his father. Then his father was around this time. Actually, if we're going to get another Eubank-Ben, it'll be the fathers again, because they were going at each other again last night. So, I mean, and I don't know if we'll ever get the grandkids fighting each other. We'll never know. But I think in terms of Conor and Chris Eubank Jr., I think that should be it. But obviously, plenty went wrong for Chris Eubank Jr. again last night. And this is what he said to the journalists, which was really around 1 in the morning.
This is not about me
This is about, this night's about Conor. He did what he needed to do to win. He fought a great fight, and I'm not here to talk about me. He's a tough man. He's a great fighter, and I respect him.
What did you do in the first round that made you know that you were mistaken?
You guys saw. You guys saw what I was in there tonight. Yeah, I thought that, you know, once those bright lights hit and that round went and, you know, I was in there, that, you know, I'd find something. And I tried. I tried hard, but it wasn't there. And Conor was strong, and he was fast, and he was tough. And, yeah, congratulations to him.
You said you went through hell, and you said it again here. Can you tell us what you meant by that?
No,
in specific?
Again, I said I'm not here to talk about anything like that. We're not taking away from what Conor did tonight.
Did you feel like you were anywhere near 100% tonight?
You guys saw what I did in the first fight. You guys can come to your conclusions after watching what just happened.
And I certainly think in reflection as well that maybe it was only 6 months since the last fight. Something wasn't there in Chris Eubank Jr. last night. Maybe his heart, and there's obviously an issue there as well. But credit to Chris Eubank Jr. Took nothing away from conorbenn there. And a bit of behind-the-scenes information, you know, seeing conorbenn last night, wasn't jumping around, wasn't celebrating too much. He's been through a lot over the last few years, and he talks about the journey he's had with his mental health, with the drugs accusations and everything like that. So I think what will happen now is that Chris Eubank Jr. will take a very, very long break, and conorbenn will move down weight. Which weight, we will wait and see. But I think for conorbenn and Chris Eubank Jr., the war is over.
You think 3 years of my career, this has been the fight. Family feud, you know, it's generational. It's never been done before in history. So to forever have that win means a lot to me, and it will forever be cemented in history. I did say early on in the week there was going to be a systematic beatdown, and that's what I've done.
I've been through hell and back to make it here today. I genuinely thought that regardless of the issues that I've been dealing with, I would be able to go in there and win. Use my boxing skills, use what you guys saw in that first fight to beat conorbenn. From that first round, I realized that I was mistaken. But it's okay. You know, I'm a fighter. This is what I do. This is not about me. This is about, this night's about Conor. He did what he needed to do to win. He fought a great fight, and I'm not here to talk about me. He's a tough man. He's a great fighter, and I respect him.
So nice to see there's a lot of respect between the duo, but with the score at 1 apiece after 24 rounds, could we see a trilogy fight?
I can see him having a rematch again, or asking for a rematch, but ultimately, I think we should just let it lie now. No, just let it lie. We've done what we had to do. We sold our stadium twice. We done what it said it was going to do on a tin, you know. So let's just call it a day now. Only fight that matters is the last fight anyway. So
right now, I'm not really in the state of mind to be thinking about next fights. I need to heal. I need to deal with what I'm dealing with, and then after that, you know, I can start thinking about my path in the sport.
Listen, money always talks, doesn't it? But for me, for my personal reasons, how much money do you need? So for me, it's let me get that world title, and for me, that would be a box ticked.